No problem. Jogi Rangi. Omakyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshundritam Jena Tasmaya Sivadhyamaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shlapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Yadunati Svadanati Kame Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. First of all, I'd like to thank Lochananda Prabhu and his good wife for insisting that I come. I think I got about 1 million emails, 2 million WhatsApps, and a few messages. I'm very glad I came. And of course, it's quite an emotional time for everyone here, because everyone's connected to this project one way or other, and it is what it is because of the savor of the service that so many devotees have done. And unfortunately, some devotees have left, devotees who did significant service. Vishnambar Prabhu left, others have left, and we want to remember them as well today for all the savor and the service that they've done. And just a few weeks ago I was studying for one particular talk, and I came across a very beautiful verse in which we can recognize the service of so many devotees, both the devotees in the past, those who are serving now, and those devotees who will come in the future and carry this project on for many centuries, I'm sure. It's a verse by a Vaishnava poet who lived in the 1700s in Braj. Shakala Vaishnava Pade Morda Namaskara Iti Kichu Aparada Nahuka Amara Hoivajan Hoivan Prabhu Jatu Bhakta Vrinda Bandhanu Korisha Vara Charanara Vinda. I respectfully bow to the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas, praying that there is no offense in my attempt to please them. To all Vaishnavas who have ever been, and all Vaishnavas who will ever be, I offer my respectful obeisances to their lotus feet. So beautiful. We thank I was amazed, of course I came in halfway through Vishesha's memories. How many memories she has. There's one thing about growing old that, your memories start to fade, especially you can't remember names. I'm seeing it in so many godbrothers and godsisters, but she just was going strong, remembering the smallest details. And she, of course, is a very integral part of this community from the very beginning, so we thank her. I also thank Swami. He wrote a document, a book, I don't know how to describe it, about New Mayapur. I was hoping, because I don't have so much to say, I was hoping I could secretly find that book and memorize something and appear like really intelligent or have a good memory or something. But please, if you have the opportunity, that it's all there. Swami took the time and the effort to research and find everything. So thank you, Gopa, for that. And Anand Raj for coming here at a difficult time and giving so much time and input and energy. Just your kirtan yesterday just showed who you are. I walked in and then he was jumping around and the kirtan was twirling, and I was thinking, he actually in many ways saved New Mayapur and is giving it direction, etc., etc. So that I could speak about so many devotees, but I like to speak about Srila Prabhupada, because this project, New Mayapur, is a manifestation of his heart. We're sitting here today because it was Srila Prabhupada who envisioned this project. He saw the need. Actually, my memories, you could say, of New Mayapur begin with Srila Prabhupada's observation that our temple in Paris was too small. It was actually small, Quatre Boules. But you'll see that famous painting, or excuse me, that famous photograph of Prabhupada. I think it was on the second floor, and he's leaning out and waving. It was a planned photo shoot, and there's just so many devotees, all singing out of the windows and in front. It's just, we really outgrew that place. And when Prabhupada came on that particular visit, he began expressing a desire that, France was bursting with Krishna consciousness. We've been distributing books here, there, and everywhere. Harinam, we go on Harinam. In the old days, they just had a mridanga and a couple of pairs of kartals. There wasn't accordions and flags and balloons and so forth and so on, and saxophones and whatever. We just go out for 8-9 hours a day around Paris and chant and invite people to our programs, and many devotees were coming. So when Prabhupada arrived on that particular visit, he began expressing a desire to find a place where devotees could live, actually. We had our preachers, of course, but in time we want people to adopt the lifestyle of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada envisioned, we could say, a farming community, self-sufficient community where especially the grihasthas could live, we could raise our children, we could show what is cow protection, etc., etc. A model of Krishna consciousness. And he was, of course, doing this as he was traveling around the world. He was establishing different farm communities for various reasons, to also teach self-sufficiency, to give a place where devotees could live and become, it's easier to become Krishna conscious in a beautiful atmosphere in the forest like this, as Krishna lives in the forest of Braj. So Prabhupada thought that would be necessary, but he also wanted to introduce into society the communities of self-sufficiency, and he also envisioned these projects as a place where people could take refuge in times of great world catastrophe. He even mentioned on several occasions there would be wars. It's not that wars are over. Wars will come because it's especially Kali Yuga, and Prabhupada envisioned we could have communities where people could come and take refuge during war. So with these ideas in mind, he requested that Bhagavan and different devotees to look for a place, and then Prabhupada actually went in a car. I forget what kind of car it was.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, and he traveled. During that visit, he went around in this area, other areas as well, looking for a property. I thought that was pretty amazing. That just shows how determined Prabhupada was, how much he wanted this community. I can't think of any other example, because I've read Srila Prabhupada Lila Rita many times. It's my favorite book. So many books, but that's my favorite book. I don't read of Prabhupada personally going on an adventure to find a property of this magnitude. For days he traveled. They saw different properties, different chateaus. For whatever reason, it didn't manifest. But my point is, this is what he wanted. This is his heart. It's interesting because when Prabhupada would travel, he would encourage devotees in the overview of the Krishna conscious movement. A movement like this requires so many projects to be successful. So when he was in let's just say Los Angeles, he would preach book distribution, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. When he was at East Coast, there was a farming community, he'd say, this is the most important project. In Dallas, he said, Gurukul's our most important project. And in London, when he was there with Radha Nandanishwara, Deity worshippers are most important program. Isn't it often? He would always say. And everyone would think that we have the most important program, but it's all important. It's all encompassing. Everything's important. Everything's essential. You take one thing out of the formula that Prabhupada gave us and it won't work. The movement won't spread. But we know how much he wanted this project because he personally drove around the land, how do we say it, this area or other areas looking. There's that famous photo. It's on the original Science of Self-Realization. Prabhupada standing like this, he's like that. You know that now they have a different cover for the Science of Self-Realization. The original one some years ago, Prabhupada in that great shotter with his cane. Prabhupada said a gentleman should either have a cane, an umbrella, or a stick. And he had his stick. It wasn't that he always needed it, but he joked one time, a gentleman should have a stick, a cane, or an umbrella. And in that photo, Prabhupada standing with the cane, you may not be able to see it. That was taken during that trip around France to look for a chateau, a property.
I think it's the photo which is in the Russia.
Oh, was it?
Is there.
He's standing,
It is there.
and he's saying, Yogeshwara wants to take a picture of him. And he says, so I'll stand like Napoleon. Yogeshwara, I'll stand like Napoleon. And all Prabhupada's grandeur. So, therefore I say this project is a manifestation of his heart. And he came here 2 times to tend to it. Prabhupada didn't go, he circled the globe 12 times as we know, but he couldn't go everywhere. So those places that he did choose to go, and just in an apartment he stayed in, or a house he stayed in, or a project that he started, a temple, or a farm, or a school, very dear to us. He personally, his lotus feet, went to that place and he was preaching. This is the most important part of our movement, like inspiring devotees. And here he came twice to tend to his desire, to inspire those devotees at that time to develop it and to encourage those in the future to continue it. So we must always remember that this is a manifestation of Prabhupada's heart, and his heart is totally 100% with Krishna. Anything and everything that Prabhupada does is for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna Balaram and Gaura Nitai. Everything. So this is a manifestation of Prabhupada's love. And if we think about that at least 3 times a day, as we're instructed in the Guru Vaishnava prayers, the project becomes more dear to us. We can sacrifice anything to keep this project going because we know that it was started by Prabhupada and he's overseeing it. Don't think he's not knowing what is happening. He knows. One time, devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you know what your disciples are doing all over the world? He said, because Krishna tells me. So certainly, Srila Prabhupada is in touch with this project, and those who are carrying it on are certainly getting his blessings. I remember one time Prabhupada said, if we had 5 projects like this throughout Europe, we could take over the continent. He said like that. So these, you could also say these are like predictions almost. If we had 5 projects like this, we could take over the continent. He said to Guru Das in the early or late 60s in London, one day scholars will note how this movement saved the world in its darkest hours. Guru Das has written that in his memoir. One day scholars will note how this movement saved the world in its darkest hours. That's unimaginable to us right now. You know, we're still getting ourselves together, still developing the movement. How can we have such an effect on the world? But even if we just consider Lord Chaitanya's prediction, 500 years ago in the jungles of Nadia, and Navadvip was the village, What was the world to the Bengalis? The world was the villages that extended, 100 kilometers. They couldn't imagine what was the world. But Mahaprabhu said, in Chaitanya Bhagavad, one day my name will be heard in every town and village of the world. Every town and village. That includes Lisi Lamal, like the So then how could they understand? So how can we understand predictions that are made, by our Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, how they will manifest? But they will in time. Satya Sankalpa means that the Lord, when He speaks, whatever He says, one day will surely become manifest. So this project will play an important role in the history of this country someday. We can't see it, but you should know it. Otherwise, why did Prabhupada go to so much trouble, traveling around in a car, looking, encouraging, look for the fine, coming here twice, giving so many instructions? He gave so much. A person who came from the spiritual world, from Vrindavan Dham, who has intimate relationships with Radha and Krishna Balaram, and Gaur Nitai. He came, and he's saying these things. So it's such a privilege, such a blessing to be able to serve here, do our little part. If you look at the history from the time of Lord Chaitanya to the present time, Lord Chaitanya, he made his mission very clear, and he initially gave the responsibility for fulfilling his desires to the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan. They set up their headquarters in Braj, in Vrindavan, started writing books, as you could say, as the foundation of this movement. Our books are the foundation upon which this movement is being built. But they came and they left. And then Narottam, Srinivas, Shamananda, the real second generation, we talk about the second generation, they came and they continued. There were so many discrepancies, so many misunderstandings. Narottam, Srinivas, Shamananda, they held the Gituri festival. Everyone came. No one was singing and dancing or preaching after Mahaprabhu left. They were just too devastated. He brought all the devotees together in Keturi. They sat down, the scholars, the advanced devotees, the acharyas, and they discussed what is the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They established it as such. That was their contribution. And each generation was working ultimately to fulfill that large prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This movement was meant for the world. It wasn't just meant for Bengal, for India, it was meant for the world. It's meant to save the world in its darkest hour. So in each generation, different devotees worked towards maintaining Krishna consciousness, maintaining our Guru Parampara. But all of them were looking forward to the time when it would become a worldwide movement. Because that's obviously what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire. Every town and village means the whole world. So they were all working to that moment that Srila Prabhupada boarded the Jaladuta and came to America. It was all preparation. He's the chosen one. Many are called, but few are chosen. Prabhupada was the chosen son of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. One time I was reading when Prabhupada was a Grihastra, and he was making contributions, with this business to the Gaudiya Math and coming and doing bhajans and giving lectures. He was known. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati favored him. It was obvious. He favored him. He took walks with Prabhupada. He gave him instructions. If you ever get money, print books, etc., etc. So some of the senior sannyasis, with all due respect, they came to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and they said, "You're giving so much association and time and energy to this Grihastra of I." Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati became angry. He said, "Don't you speak, don't you criticize." He said, "In the end, he will do everything." And he did. He chastised. Prabhupada was a Grihastra. It was all part of Krishna's plan. Krishna has his plans. Don't you criticize. In the end, he will do everything. And so it came to pass. That moment that Prabhupada boarded the Jaladoot and came to the West, that was part of the work of many, many great devotees. Some we know, some we'll never know. But it was all in that plan. So part of Prabhupada's plan to take the work of so many great devotees, 6 Goswamis, and Gaur Nitai themselves, Radha and Krishna, this is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. Sometimes we forget, or we take it, we become familiar, but this is part of Prabhupada's plan. Part of the plan of all those devotees. We're serving, we're carrying on with our little humble selves. One time Prabhupada said, Lord Ramachandra, he conquered Lanka, he conquered Ravana with monkeys and bears. He said, so I am conquering the world with my disciples. But how do we do that? How do we carry on the work of such great devotees? Prabhupada said one time that along with the instruction of the spiritual master comes the ability to fulfill it. That's how we're doing it. We are who we are. But we've surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. There's nothing better than becoming the servant of a glorious master. We're his instruments. And by his grace, he's empowering us, each one according to their ability, because Krishna says that he's the ability, and everyone, variety is the spice of life. We have leaders, we have cooks, we have Sankara, we have mothers, we have babies, they're the future. Everyone has a role to play. Prabhupada's the maestro, the master, who's waving that stick. It's all going on by his grace. So everyone has a role to play. And you should be fully satisfied, santushti, that you're playing a role, especially in this community. Because this really, Prabhupada gave general instructions, but he gave specific instructions, specific orders. And this is one of those specific desires that Prabhupada had. So all glories to the devotees in the past who helped develop, all glories to the team who is here now, and the hundreds of thousands